All right, this thing on, tap, tap, tap. All right, I've just been out digging. That's why I'm out of breath and sweaty. I'm only like 30% of the way through, so I gotta do this quick and run back out there. But I was thinking about something I felt like sharing. So, I often think about how much human beings are just not reaching our potential. There's so much more we could do if we just had the will, like the internal morality, the drive to do better, like we just cared. So many things where we have like sufficient technology and understanding of things and knowledge. We just lack the will to make things happen. That could be amazing. And I was thinking about a really simple example, which would be vaccines. Now, vaccines are a big, crazy thing that people get all upset about right now. I don't want to get into all that. Just vaccines in general, putting aside the idea that people might be putting additional stuff into vaccines and blah, blah, blah. Now, for this monologue, I just want to talk about just the general idea of vaccines that work. So, you got this disease that pops up and people start dying from it. Say it's killing like 1 in 5 people. So if this thing is left to go, it's going to wipe out like 20% of the population. And there's going to be all this horrible suffering and dying. And so people are real careful. They kind of, quarantine themselves and isolate a lot. In the meantime, some guys in some labs are working on a vaccine. So say 2 years later, they're like, we got it. We got the vaccine. Okay, now let's do some human trials. And they test it out on some people. Totally works. And they're like, all right, 6 months later, they're like, all right, let's just vaccinate everyone and get rid of this disease. So you get rid of that disease, you skip the plague. You don't have to deal with it, right? Great. The problem with this, the inherent problem with vaccines in general is that then from that point on, forever, your population is now dependent on this vaccine, right? And like 1 or 2 is not a big deal, but when you get up to like 50, 100 needles a baby has to get before they can go out into the world or else they die, it gets a little bit like, well, is this really working out in the long term? Now, the upside of going through the hell of the plague and all these people dying and suffering is at the end of it, you end up with a population that is immune. So only the people who are immune survive. So at the end, the disease is gone. You don't have to do anything to maintain it. You don't have to keep these injections, right? So is there a way to get both of the positives and skip both of the negatives of those? It's really not that hard to figure out. You back up, say, okay, disease comes along. The beginning is all the same. It's this disease comes along. People realize it's killing like 1 in 5 people, like 20% of the population is being wiped out. We got to do something about this. So people start being real careful, wearing masks, isolating, whatever, trying not to get it while the guys are working on the vaccine. Now, at the same time, those guys are working on a vaccine. These guys over here are working on a test to test who has natural immunity, right? So then they can figure out who actually needs the vaccine and who doesn't. And anyone who's naturally immune just has whatever genetic garbage in them that does well fighting off this disease. They don't take the vaccine. So you just give the vaccine to the people who need it. And now you have a population of people who are aware of either being naturally immune or needing to get the vaccine. At which point, and this has to be voluntary, because there's so many points like in a situation like this where if anything is not voluntary, it can turn into a real mess of people just stealing power and controlling people and stuff. So all this stuff depends largely on people's own morality and trying to do the right thing. Like doing the right thing has to become just the norm. Like people just have to be trying to do the right thing for any of this to work. But anyway, so then you have a population of people who know that either they're one of the 80% of people who are immune or they're one of the 20% of people who have to get the vaccine. And at this point, the disease is gone, right? The disease is wiped out as long as those 20% of people keep taking the vaccine. But in addition, you encourage people, and it's their own voluntary choice, of course, You encourage people to only have children with someone where they're going to produce children that are going to be immune to the vaccine. So say we're really lucky and this gene that's in 80% of people is dominant, and you only need one parent to end up with children who are immune. So if you're immune to it already, you don't do anything different. You don't change anything. If you're one of the 20% of people who got the poop end of the stick, tough luck, like stuff happens, like crap happens. You have to take it upon yourself to say, okay, now I have to reduce my dating pool by 20%, unless I'm not going to have kids. If I'm not going to have kids, it doesn't matter. But if I'm going to have kids, I have to make sure that I'm with one of those people who is immune. And then, there's going to be little errors here and there, but within a few generations, the disease is gone. Everyone is immune. You don't have to keep doing the vaccine. You can put it up on a shelf for historical research, or just in case you need it in the future or whatever. But that way you end up with a population that's immune, and you didn't have to go through the hell of the plague. And we could totally do this kind of stuff if we just had the will, What are you guys talking about over here? Hope all is well. Yes, everything is good. Would the children of the survivors be immune? Yeah. I know you probably don't care because getting into out is more important, but careful about getting demonetized by YouTube for misinfo. I didn't give any information about anything. I'm just talking about, anyway. They didn't even have to be, since the disease has died out by then. No, if the disease dies out, you never know if it's lurking somewhere. So you'd have to that's why we have to keep taking vaccines now for diseases that were wiped out a long time ago, supposedly, right? Because you never know when it crop up again. But anyway, all right, I'm going to go back to digging. Everyone have a great time. I'm going to go get demonetized. This channel is not monetized anyway. So.